Well, good evening. Good evening. Hey, I see all my friends in the audience tonight. Well, it's my honor to bring you greetings tonight on behalf of Mayor Tommy Battle, and our City Council President Mark Russell is in the back. And to thank you for braving the rainy weather tonight to join us for this really important topic, our Consolidated Plan. The City of Huntsville receives an annual Community Development Block Grant and a Home Investment Partnership Grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And one of the requirements for receiving these funds is the preparation of a 5-year consolidated plan. The plan documents the demographics of our community and prioritizes the needs for our community for the next 5 years. HUD also requires that we, the city, engage the public in helping us to determine the needs in our community, specifically the needs of our low and moderate income residents. Whether it's housing needs or economic development needs or public service needs, they're all documented and prioritized based on input from focus groups and public forums like the one tonight. This public forum is extremely important and a big part of the development of our plan because we, our city planners, city staff, elected officials, we can't develop this plan on our own. HUD simply would not allow it. So we really encourage you to share your thoughts with us so that we can capture your ideas and incorporate them into this important plan. You're probably aware that the city is working on several plans simultaneously. I know I've seen many of you at our big picture meetings and citizen academies. You might have been a part of our fair housing plan preparation, and of course this plan. All of these plans are important roadmaps that our elected officials will use over the next 5 years to prioritize and implement projects that will benefit many of us, many of the people that we care about. I believe that you can tell a lot about a community based on the way it cares for the neediest in the community. And I think we can all agree that Huntsville's reputation for caring for our children, our elderly, and our poor is impeccable. Local government, in partnership with our faith-based communities, really tackle our issues head on. And I'm excited that we'll be able to get your input in order to capture where our dollars need to go in the future. So thank you for coming tonight. We welcome you. And I think, who's next, Mr. Benion? It's my pleasure to introduce Kenneth Benion, the Director of Community Development. Ken?
Thank you, Michelle. Welcome. Appreciate all of you showing up for our public forum, for our community forum for a consolidated plan. Part of what I'm to do is just kind of give you some of the objectives of the Community Development Block Grant Program. The objective is to benefit low to moderate income persons, prevent or eliminate blight, or to meet urgent community development needs. Now, saying that differently, that should ensure decent, affordable housing, or to provide services in vulnerable communities, and to expand economic opportunities in our vulnerable communities. Some of the projects that we've done in the past included rehabilitation of the Lakewood Park. We did pavilions, we did tennis courts, we did playground equipment. We also put a new roof on the Lakewood Center. Other projects with community development block grant funds. We started a revolving fund with the North Alabama Revolving Loan Fund, which is a micro loan program for small businesses, people interested in starting a small business who can't get funding through traditional means, and we've done that to increase jobs in our targeted neighborhoods. The next program that well, in going back to community development block grant, we probably get on average each year about $1.1 million in community development block grant funding. 15% of that can be used for public services. That's like organizations like the Boys and Girls Club, which we fund. We funded a tutorial and educational program called the Village of Promise. We put money into the Children's Advocacy Center through the public service funds that we receive. We also use about 20% of the money for administrative purposes, funding our offices and some of the salaries of the people in our office. We use part of the funding for code enforcement. As you know, we have a pretty strict code enforcement program here in Huntsville. So in targeted neighborhoods, the code enforcement is paid for with community development block grant funding. The other program that we receive major funding from would be the HOME program. That's strictly to do some type of affordable housing. The affordable housing would include the new houses that we built. We've done, I think, 22 new houses, newly constructed houses in the Terry Heights community. We're looking to do an additional, we have under contract, I think, 3 more at this point. We're looking to do some new houses in the Low Mill area. And these would be affordable houses that sell in the range, depending on what they actually appraise for, in the $70,000 range. So 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom houses with all appliances included, security system, privacy fence, sodded front and back. And so they're very nice houses. An example of one of the houses would be what you see there on the right. And that's one of the houses that we did in the Terry Heights community. We put funding also into senior housing, multifamily housing complex. We have one that we've completed, and we partner with, we partner in this particular case with Neighborhood Concepts, Inc., the nonprofit organization. And this would, on the apartments there are Franklin Hills, located out by Oakwood University. And it's for strictly for seniors. We have the rent affordable, very nice facility. And we're currently constructing a senior facility in South Huntsville behind the Sam's, next to where they decided to put the new Grissom High School after we had decided to put some apartments there. And so those are also the type projects we do with home funding. And I guess we will turn it over to Dr. Wilson here. Dr. Wilson is consultant on this project. She's with Alabama A&M University, and she will take over at this point.
Good evening. Glad to see such a large group. I was sitting to the front, so I didn't realize how many people I would be engaging tonight. So we're very happy that you're here to help us talk about the Consolidated Plan. These funds are supplied by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, as you've heard. And HUD requires that every 5 years, a city that is receiving HUD dollars must look at itself, examine where it is, and really put together some strategic, purposeful actions that can change the quality of life, principally for low-mod income persons. And so the whole idea is to engage persons to say, what is it that we should do? The best persons that can tell you what the issues and challenges are in a community are those who move about, live within that community. And so that's why it is so essential that we put together a multi-layered process to hear the voices and hear the concerns and just hear the commentary about what we can do to make sure that this great place called Huntsville, Alabama has great opportunities, housing choices, educational choices, transportation choices, that it creates those avenues where everybody can embrace it and have a great quality of life. And so this is one source of dollars that can be targeted to help meet those gaps that some may be having in this great place that we call Huntsville. And as we know, you look on the website and Huntsville is #1 in everything. And so we want to create that sense of enjoyment and opportunity for those who may have some challenges. And so we want to talk about how do we meet those challenges individually and for families. So the Consolidated Plan is a vision, as I said, a unified vision saying what should we write into this plan that could address in a very strategic way a way that we can enhance the quality of life. And so we're starting at the point of looking at where we are right now. Part of our conversation tonight is about you telling us, these are some of the things I see right now. As you will hear later in the PowerPoint, we have a survey that's online and a survey that's on the city's website under community development. And we have other organizations that have told us that they would put it on their website where we can meet our captive audience of those who might really, really be in need of the kind of services that we do. So we're really trying to take a snapshot. Right now, this is how the state of things are in the city of Huntsville in general, but particularly for low-mod income residents. And so by understanding where we are now, we can move to where we want to go. And so the survey will give us some indications and directions. Hopefully tonight you will give us some indications and directions. And the statistics, we look at published statistics. We examine the census data. We examine home mortgage data. We look at a lot of established information that gives profile information that helps us understand what percent are in whatever need and how many persons have these kinds of challenges. And so we just don't rely on talk. We back that up with the statistical data that other entities have gathered for us. And so by assembling and amassing all this information, we move to where we are right now to how do we get to the state that we desire to be. And so the plan will have some goals about what we hope will happen in the next 5 years as we use these dollars. And so this conversation is a big part of that. And so we prepared this plan. As I said, it's the first step. We cannot receive monies from HUD unless we have completed this planning process. And so tonight is not the first step. We have met with key informants. Back in December, we had a meeting where we had approximately 30 persons to come, and it was service providers, it was city employees, and it was a mixture of people to kind of dialogue with us about housing needs and other kind of challenges. And so we are taking these first steps, which is consultation. We are required to complete a template that HUD gives us. So we just can't write what we want and tell them what we want. There's a very restrictive set of interrogatories, as I call them, a very specific set of questions that they want us to reply to. So our whole process of engaging the public, which is phase one of the process, says you need to have a broad spectrum of avenues where you get feedback. After you have consulted, and the next step is to look at those statistics I said, identify what the needs are, what the data says. Combine your consultation with your documentation of needs, and then begin to talk about your plans. What should we do now that we have a good feel for what's going on? How do we frame a set of actions and a set of tools and processes to improve the life of low-mod residents? And so the priorities of HUD, decent housing. HUD has been declaring for many, many years that every person should live in a decent home. And that's been a national goal for decades and decades. And one of the things that's important about the Community Development Block Grant Program is that until 1974, when this program was put into action, cities would get money earmarked for whatever the government said you need to spend it on. The beauty of the CDBG block grant funds, it allows you to look at your unique circumstances. Every place is not alike. New York is not Huntsville, nor is it Atlanta. And so we are allowed to take these block grant funds, which are not earmarked for certain things, to say, when we look at ourselves, these are the challenges that we have as a community. And so that's why this plan this process and these dollars are so unique. You really, really can forge a plan that's uniquely suited for the needs of your community. And so we have expanded economic opportunities and a suitable living environment. That's what cumulatively should happen through these expenditure of dollars. We should see at some point that there are more persons who have decent housing, that in general, when we look around at the physical environments and the state of the living conditions of communities that we have targeted, we're seeing an improvement in the living conditions. And we should see some avenues where expanded economic opportunities have come by our strategic investment in those things that can generate jobs or either education preparation. And so the process. The priorities for the 2015 Consolidated Plan will come from these focus groups, from the community meetings. We will be having meetings with some of the target communities that community development has been working with for many, many years to really talk to them about forging what is it that needs to happen in your community. We will have grassroots contacts. And as I said, we'll look at the social and economic data for further insights, to glean it and to say, what's the story behind the numbers? Focus groups, citizen surveys, public hearings, and public forums such as these are our key principal elements to become informed. We can't write a plan unless we have good information. And so your participation is vital to us writing a plan that's relevant. So what are we looking for? The measurable outcomes. We're hoping that after 5 years, we will see more stable, low-mod income communities. And as Ken just showed you, we are seeing neighborhoods become more stable. We're seeing housing being built for low-mod persons. Target residents should realize a higher level of self-sufficiency. We understand that just by having brick-and-mortar projects, you're not going to see the sustained change that you want. Communities may look good for a minute, but we need to be investing in those activities and actions that move people to a higher level of self-sufficiency. And that does not mean just providing with a home, but also looking at those other components. And when I say all this, the other beauty that HUD advocates, and the idea that they advocate, is that we should be leveraging dollars with other entities, and we should be partnering with other entities. They're not expecting the community development block grant dollars, the $1 million plus, to solve the problems. And so community development has always been strategic in bringing in partners to say, this is a need, we can go this far with it, but how can you bridge the gap? And so those are strategies, too, that we're looking for in terms of this higher level of self-sufficiency. Increased home ownership, as you saw, and more engagement of low-mod income residents in the future direction of their cities. Community development has always had neighborhood groups that have formed. They have worked very closely with some. Some neighborhood groups are more active than others. Some have really assembled and really tried to get a group of persons to kind of be overseers of the future direction of the communities. And I'm always advocating, as a teacher of urban planning, that government can only do so much, and it has to be a buy-in of those who live in these communities to have sustained change. After the dollars leave, will you have amassed and got a level of buy-in that everybody considers it their business to keep that community moving and up and being sustained over time? And so that's one of the strategies of community development. Let's work with organizations. Let's get persons in those communities to stake a claim in the future of those communities. So what can we do with these dollars? We can use them toward public facilities and improvements, public services, as Ken just said. We can do some rehab, some housing, temporary housing shelter, code enforcement, special economic development activities, home ownership. Examples of some of the community development block grant programs or services, and as Ken mentioned, we can spend 15% of the dollars on public service activities, and that can include child care. We oftentimes know that persons moving from one situation to the other in terms of employment and self-sufficiency, the lack of child care can be a barrier. It can stop upward mobility. And so we understand that even though the job may be there, those obstacles or barriers to accessing those jobs may be the reason why someone cannot move forward. And so HUD does allow you to invest in child care, health care, job training, recreation programs. Parks and recs are very, very important to the sustainability of the community. Making sure that there is space that's safe and well maintained for children to play and for others to recreate. It's not just children. Seniors need places that are safe to go recreate, leisure time, parks that allow them to just enjoy nature too. Education programs, public safety programs, services for seniors, services for homeless persons, drug abuse and counseling. Kinds of programs that we can do that are serving, meeting those gaps that are individualized human gaps and not so much brick and mortar. The home eligible activities, home rehabilitation, home buying activities, monies have been used locally in community development dollars to have down payment assistance. We sometimes know that pulling together that first deposit, that first down payment becomes a challenge to a lot of people who are on incomes that they're able to pay the monthly mortgage, but amassing that first set of dollars, that's the first step to home ownership, has oftentimes been a barrier blocking them from home ownership. And so for many years, the down payment system has opened the door, unlocked the door for persons to actually get into that house. Housing counseling, we understand that oftentimes persons need to understand the process of buying and the process of owning a house, the requirements of owning a home. New construction activity also, rental housing is an eligible activity under the home funds, and tenant-based rental assistance. And we now come to a survey. As I said, we have this survey online, and we are asking that persons give us feedback about the activities that I just kind of told you about. And so we can get a feel that as you move about this city, what do you see in terms of the kinds of needs persons may have, or what kind of priorities we ought to set? And the survey allows you to rank the priorities from high, medium to low in terms of your perception. I tell my students all the time, because I teach research methods, that a survey can measure attitudes, motivations, or behavior, motivations, attitudes, or aspirations. It doesn't give you statistical data, but I'm not asking you to tell me how many people do whatever, but in your looking around, do you see these things as being a need? And from the assembling of all the data, Dr. Herbert, who is an associate with me, she will pull all the information together. She will run the numbers in different kind of ways to say, what are you telling me? And then we'll write up an analysis of what we got, what feedback we got from all the persons who answered the surveys. At this stage, we're approaching close to 200 surveys that have been returned already. We would be thrilled, 500 and above. So certainly yours will count tonight, and we appreciate the effort that you will take to look at it. I'm going to you want to do the survey at this point, Terkesa? Because we're at the point, yeah, as a talk. So this is my presentation. Hopefully you've got an inkling of what it is that we're trying to do, and you have a good sense of what your role is. But at this time, too, we want to open it up for questions. Feel free to ask us about how the process is going to work. We'd like to hear from you what other things we can do to make sure that we get at as good of an assessment of where to go in the next 5 years as possible. So if there's commentary, ideas you want to share, or concerns that you would like to have us hear and record. We have to record public comments. HUD wants to know, did you meet with people, and what did they tell you? Beyond the survey, they want to just hear what you had to say and not how we framed what you had to say. Sometimes people think, well, you only asked me what you want to know. Well, no, we're asking you some things that we absolutely want to know and need to know, but we also want to open up for you to share some things that we did not ask you on the survey. Mics are?
I just had a question. I noticed that you use some of the funds to build new houses, and I was wondering, like in my neighborhood, I have a lot of empty houses that are for sale or they're foreclosed. Are any of the funds ever used to beef up those houses? Yeah, rehabs, because that would sure help some of these communities, neighborhoods that are decaying.
We do have programs where we do rehab on houses, not necessarily foreclosed houses, because that's owned by the bank and for a business. But for seniors, we have a deferred maintenance program where we will pay for materials with community development block grant funding, and you can get volunteers, and sometimes we can arrange volunteers for you to come in and do exterior repairs. It's strictly exterior repairs. Now, I understand that there are a number of houses, and particularly in your community, that we're aware of. It just depends on if they meet the standard for being declared a public nuisance. And what we would do is have a contractor go out and assess whether it's repairable or not. If it's not repairable, or rehabilitable, we would then go to council and ask them to declare it a public nuisance. If it's declared a public nuisance, then we can go in and tear it down at that point, and then place a lien on the property for whoever buys the property that would have to be paid at some time. But as far as just business-owned properties, which would be the case with the foreclosure, we don't have any programs that will address that. But code enforcement will also address that in contacting the owners. Now, a lot of times we have issues with contacting out-of-state owners or out of this area owners and trying to get them to do repairs, because we can't really enforce laws across the state line. But we will place liens on properties or issue citations and notices for them to come to court. And if they ever come back into the county and are stopped by the police, it could be a warrant issued for them if the property is not taken care of. Yes, we need to get it recorded.
For instance, you know, you said you can't do anything with the foreclosures, but like in my neighborhood, there's one house, it's a solid brick house, 3-bedroom, 1 or 2 baths. It's a foreclosure. I mean, it's $35,000 cash. It seems like that would be a good something to buy instead of building a brand new home that, you know, is worth $75,000, I think was the example. And then again, you'd be helping the neighborhood that's already established that needs some help.
Now, we have done some rehabs on properties that were foreclosures when we had neighborhood stabilization funds, which were strictly for foreclosures. The problem we run into when you get into foreclosures, and us being a city agency or a city department, if you get into asbestos, if you get into lead, you have to bring it up to code. Sometimes rehabilitating a house can be more expensive than building a new one, and that's what we found. And then the resale value might not reach what you can get out of a new house. So we moved towards new housing construction because we were able to stretch our funding further.
Okay. All right, Dr. Wilson, well, first of all, I'm Lanice Arnold with the North Alabama Coalition for the Homeless, and I've actually identified 8 gaps in services that I've identified to our service population. So if I get to talking too long, just cut me off. Okay. The first one is a need for increased case management services for housing as well as mental health. As you're aware, we have experienced a decrease in our mental health funding, which has affected our services to our mentally ill population. The second one is SOAR case management services, which actually helps with individuals that are disabled to obtain their Social Security benefits with a success rate normally of being approved within 90 days. And this would enable those individuals to earn an income as well as medical services. The third area is maybe a women's only shelter, and I would like for this shelter to be considered at a place different than what our men's shelter are. So some of our women that are currently experiencing homelessness will not have to endure sexual harassment and things of that nature. Increase in number of placement for families that house entire households. We definitely have a lack in the number of units that will keep a family unit together, being mother, father, as well as children, as well as a lack in shelter units that house single parents with kids of the opposite gender. And we definitely have a decrease in the number of shelters that house single fathers with children. Okay. An increase in transitional housing programs for single individuals, because a lot of times there are programs for people that have children, but we have a lot of single people that need job readiness skills and other type of services that would make them self-sufficient. Developing a more affordable housing, because a lot of people in our population, they actually have jobs. It may be part-time incomes, but there aren't enough affordable housing units for them to be able to obtain housing under their current income. The previous out-of-reach study that the Low Income Housing Coalition does states that Alabama's 2-bedroom apartment with utilities is about $685 a month, and basically that sustains a hourly wage of $13.13 an individual, with most of our individuals making $7.25 an hour. That creates a gap about $5.88. So we definitely have a deficit in affordable housing. And there's also a need for possibly a medical respite, because we have individuals that are homeless that are released from the hospital with conditions that will not allow them to return to the shelter. So therefore, they are roaming the streets, and they're at a hazard for more danger to themselves. And it also increases the amount of money that the taxpayer pay for those indigent medical bills by them having to go back to the hospitals for further treatments. Anybody want to comment on those? Can she ask me a question? Okay. Yes, Molly. SOAR case management. I'm sorry, I used the acronym. That is Social Security Social Security and Social Security Disability Services, Outreach, Access, and Recovery for the Homeless. That is a training program that trains case managers how to appropriately fill out the Social Security disability applications on behalf of clients. Okay.
It brings to the table a lot of need gaps that you, by virtue of being a foot soldier, didn't know that these are issues that we, and can we get a copy of your report?
My name is Carol Cotney, and I've lived in Huntsville for 57 years, and I've been homeless in this community for over 6 years. My educational background includes college degrees from Auburn and UAH in Family Resource Management and Mechanical Engineering. And no, there aren't a lot of engineering jobs. When you do go and apply for jobs, you get called a whore. You get, well, you're supposed to give that to me, or my son needs a job, or my company needs $1 million contract, or this, that, and the other. Huntsville Housing Authority provides housing for homeless people. If the state of Alabama, Code of Alabama states for Housing Authority, is responsible for housing of low-income persons. Huntsville Housing Authority restricts to persons that are 62 and older, disabled, 19 to age 62, with at least one minor age dependent. They have approved people of high income to access units. About a third of your homeless are on disability. Many of the people are on disability because they've been homeless for a long time and they can't get a job. Mental health is a joke. People are signing up for that because if you sign up for mental health, go down there, they will give you an apartment, they'll put you on some pills, somebody will go out and try to sell them on the street, and they give them an apartment and find them a job. We've got the Alabama Career Center. The city council person representing District 4, which is the poorest neighborhood of the city of Huntsville, which is the Butler High School area, his answer of expanding public transit is buy a bicycle or have somebody buy you a bicycle to go out to Chase Industrial Park, go out to Toyota, or anywhere else. It's a joke. The average income in the United States is $50,000, and in Alabama it's $45,000. My name is Carol Cotney, Cotney, Carol.
Kind of summarize the three most important things that you see in terms of the conditions that you've got. What is it that we can cast a name, a brand, and say, okay, this, you've given us some good background about why things are the way they are, but what is it, what suggestions would you offer to us, some commentary that you want us to walk away with saying, Cotton identified these things, we don't put your name in the report, but at least we walk away with a sense of feel of exactly how you see us being able to work with the situations that you described.
Alabama Landlord and Tenant Act of 2006 is violated all over this city by rental property. They need to be inspected on a regular basis. We have slumlords. Matter of fact, I was given a list by the Salvation Army recommending them for housing. It violated the Alabama Landlord and Tenant Act. If I'd go to them separately, it would be different. We're taking homelessness, which is something short-term, and we're making it a multiple-year problem. We have a lot of people think unemployment, a solution is to go get married or file for disability. Some kind of quick check. Okay, I've got all this education, all this experience. I even worked as a small business owner. And I'm working at $8 an hour when and if they let me go out there. And I have to ride a cab at $16 each way. But I can't afford to go back and forth each day. They allow me to stay on site for multiple days. So I'm spending about $60 a week. And for many weeks, I only make enough to cover cab fare. And again, the only thing I get from the city council is go buy a bike. For 1 to 2 miles of road, we could add bus transportation to these industrial sites, and we could expand to where people can get the jobs that they need. There are realtors that buy foreclosure property. The VA, 100%, you don't have to have, these are examples. There's a lease to own. You can refinance. There are things of that nature. Women are not respected. When you get into the way our city operates, there's a lot of, I'm male, my wife's a full-time homemaker, therefore you're supposed to be a full-time homemaker. Or you've got an engineering degree, I don't, I refuse to accept that you can do anything, and no, you can't have a job that you qualify for. Or somebody's got a son or a daughter or this, that, and the other. Or then you get into racial or socioeconomic backgrounds. And then you run into, you're an American, I'm not, you're rich, step aside, give me your job. And then we now have the PPACA. That is to someone making less than $10 an hour, especially down at the minimum wage and $8 an hour, that's not full-time or even full-time. That is a 40% plus federal income tax.
May we put your comments into our public we can have yours and
Yes.
open it up and give everybody else a chance to
I
talk.
think
We definitely would like to have them and
adult
give them to us,
education, when you have the people in public housing, take advantage of the fact right now you can get a free GED. I mean, Drake State and Calhoun are over on Seminole. There are Pell Grants. I think Terry Heights needs curbs and gutters and sidewalks and underground utilities. 3-month rent, 3-month leases, 6-month leases, month to month. It would be helpful. Or a month to month up to 6 months and then sign at 3, 6, or 12 months. It would help. And
we want to give everybody a chance who may want to say something, an opportunity. We absolutely appreciate very much your taking time to document.
Okay.
It's very good information. You kind of walked us through some situations that many of us may not even be familiar with. So we absolutely appreciate your personal documentation of things that you see. Very insightful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. I'm Harold Weatherly. I'm with Boys and Girls Clubs of North Alabama. And I see where you were asking about services for tutoring for children and youth. We are serving right now in the area of Butler Terrace, Seminole. We're serving about 90 youth in that Boys and Girls Clubs. And I think there's about 300 school-age youth in that area. And we wanted to kind of expand some of our services there, and we're looking very interested in what we can do to reach more of those young people. with after-school tutoring, with mentoring programs, which I see you do have listed here, with job opportunities, job career training, and things of that nature. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as a part of your survey as you continue to move forward.
Good evening. I'm Keith Lohorn from the Nexus Energy Center, a nonprofit here in Huntsville. We have a project that we call the Comfort Project that has recently started, and what that does is we go into the underserved communities with grants that we get from various sources, whether it's TARCOG or CASA or through other partnerships, and we go in and we weatherize, provide insulation, fill up holes in these folks' homes, because as we know, these people that live in these homes, they're older, they're elderly, they're on fixed income, and the projects we do with about $2,500, we can save them about 20% of their utility bill, which is what our average savings. We go as high as 31%, but most of it's in the average of 20%, and that's a project that we would like to continue. We're in the process of doing 18 homes right now, and we've got more to do as money becomes available. And we think that we would be a good source of to help along just about anybody. Thank you. Right, absolutely.
Good evening. I'm Walter Harris with the Alabama Cooperative Extension System, Madison County Office, County Extension Coordinator. 2 questions. Mr. Benion, I know that there's still some multi-family units being built, but is there a timeline or is there a percentage of facilities like that you plan to phase out and do more single-family dwellings? And the other question concerning some of the programs listed to fulfill these requirements, programs instead of infrastructures, will you be looking for partners to help implement some of those programs, or are you planning on doing most of it in-house?
To answer your second question first, most of the programs we do are with nonprofit organization partners. Very few that we actually run. Of course, code enforcement is something that we do ourselves, but all of the other programs are with partners. As far as phasing out multifamily units, is really going to be dictated by what we find from the survey and interviewing the people here as to what the actual need is. We might slow down on doing some of the multifamily just due to the amount of budget, but we see senior housing as a growing need regardless, so we don't see where we would be slowing down too much on that. Single family is we've kind of tried to do something unique in the Terry Heights, and we're kind of using it as a test. And the reason we're doing so much single family there, we saw that as a neighborhood that was close to a lot of the jobs. You don't have to go far to get to UAH. You don't have to go far to get to Research Park. You don't have to go far to get out on the Arsenal, or if you're going out the shopping corridor on University or accessing the Parkway, and it's close to downtown also. So we've taken that, tearing down blighted houses, building new ones, and working with the community to rebuild the community. We just saw it as a unique opportunity that would work. So it's not so much that we're shifting emphasis totally to single family houses. We thought we had the opportunity to revitalize a neighborhood in the process of providing affordable housing.
My name is Betty Gaylor, and I would like to see level sidewalks, not sidewalks that's up and down, where us old folks will have secure, walking the streets and not fall. We need them in holiday homes. I think on Hillsborough and Fair Acres are the only sidewalks in that area. We desperately need them. Also, we need recreational facilities for our children that play over there. Instead of having to put up a basketball goal out in the street and then them block the streets and everything in order to play, take it down, put it in someone's yard at night. We desperately need a recreation facility and something that the elderly people, more elderly than me, could use. But we do need anything that we could get done over there would be greatly appreciated. Holiday Homes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Goulet. I work with Alabama Cooperative Extension System as well with Mr. Harris, and he mentioned something I just want to piggyback on. Extension, I'm not sure if you're aware of. We have a partnership with the Huntsville Housing Authority. Our office is located actually in one of the public housing apartments where we provide educational opportunities and educational programs for Huntsville Housing Authority residents and limited resource families in and around Madison County in Huntsville area. So I just wanted to share that information because we have numerous programs that are available to the citizens, at many of which are at no to low cost. And I think it would just be a wonderful opportunity to partner with the city of Huntsville on this project.
Good evening. I'm Jane Dow, and I'm with an organization called Veterans of North Alabama Services Assistance Program, Inc. And what we do is we help veterans find services that they're entitled to and try to point them in the right direction. We try to help them with all the odds and end things that a lot of other organizations don't address. But one of the main things that we do is we try to provide furniture and household items for them, because where we're talking about getting homeless people into houses, when we get them into houses, they're sleeping in a sleeping bag in the floor. They're warming their raviolis up in a sink of hot water. So they need the items to help them be able to cook, eat, sleep, shower, and relax. And that's what we're trying to concentrate on. Yes, let's get them into housing. When we get them into housing, let's give them a reason to want to be there. Let's make it a home. And that's what we say. We help veterans turn houses into homes. So I don't know if there's a way to get assistance with this type thing, but if there's a way to, funnel some assistance in getting furniture and household items to the people, then that's what we're all about. And I gave Scott my card.
I noticed that there have been a number of mentions of code enforcement. Now, as part of code enforcement, is there any method by which financing, either grants or low interest or non-interest loans, can be provided to people to help bring properties up to code?
For low-income individuals who qualify, that's where our deferred maintenance program that I spoke about earlier comes into play. Where we will pay for the materials to do exterior repairs, but this is not for businesses or landlords. It's strictly for people who reside in the houses or homestead. And so we do have those programs. Yes. Yes, strictly for homeowners. Yes, you have to, you have to, when I said homestead, that means you live in the house. Right.
I may just kind of piggyback real quick. I want to thank you all, first of all, for what you already do to support the Boys and Girls Clubs. Because of the dollars that we receive from you all, we are able to serve quite a few young people in this city, and through education intervention, which is our early intervention program, which deals with young people that are struggling. We go in and we find out who are struggling, and then we come up with an intervention program to help them. So all of the things you all are doing to support us, we're grateful.
I'm Kathy Miller from United Way of Madison County. Glad to see Harold, one of our wonderful partners. 29 organizations in the community receive United Way funding, and I brought you a present. We just finished a community-wide needs assessment that may have some valuable information in, and I did see a lot of consistency in the priorities, because our community told our researcher that there were about 20 things that they felt like were most critical, and everybody from the people working and living in Research Park and Hampton Cove all the way to folks that are struggling came together on those 20 items. So that's in there for you, and that'll be wonderful, I think. Also, just a comment about landlords, because that's something we're hearing a lot in the community, is that there are a lot of folks, I think it's a third of the calls coming into 211 are for utility assistance. Our need is here, and our resources to respond to that and help with some kind of financial assistance are way down here. And so the challenge is, how can we encourage and find an incentive of some sort to help those people who are landlords to understand the importance of that? Because right now the reality is that if they write the lease so the utilities are on the person living and renting from them, as soon as they can't make it, then they say, I've got a line of people out my door coming, waiting to be in that place, and then they're out, and then they have $500 or $600 or $700 to reconnect, and it really is a challenge. And so that's one thing that we've certainly been hearing a lot about. And also, I would encourage you, the voice of the community was so strong in saying, let's stop working separately, and let's start to find these places where we say, okay, you've got this piece, and you've got this piece, and you've got this piece, and we come together. And United Way absolutely is echoing that voice, because the community has been very loud about it. And they are tired of seeing 6 different agencies doing their own thing instead of coming together. And it's an efficiency model in the complex social issues that we're dealing with now. So we appreciate so much. Thank you so much for doing this and for giving a voice to all those folks. About 1,000 people were involved in our work during that time.
I'm Angela Boyd. I'm with East Maston Lake Homeowners and Renters Association. And on one of your measurable outcomes here, which I thought was great, it says more engagement of low to moderate income residents in the future direction of their communities. Just to show you an example of what's happened in our community. Our association was started 10 years ago. We were the first in the city. And at that time, we had 30, 35, 40 people that would come to our meetings, and we met every month. Well, now we thought it's really fallen off. We have maybe 15. And so we decided to meet every other month, and we still only have 15. And it seems like in a lot of these communities, there's this apathy of the people don't want to get involved. If you can find a way to help us do that, I mean, I think that's a great something that we need to do. So they take pride in their community and their homes that they're in. Because if they even just come to our meetings, we have utility speakers, we have community development speakers that would help them with some of their problems that they're having. But it just seems like this, if you find a way to motivate them, let us know.
so much for your input. And I will allow Ms. Wilson to get the time. Yeah, there is. Yeah, the survey is also online. And it's on the city's, they're going to the city's website, Teresa, how to, you want to tell them how to access it?
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming and your input. As Dr. Wilson said, the survey is online. If you go to the City of Huntsville's website and look under news, there's a link to the survey, and it'll take you directly to it once you click on the survey button there. We look forward to working with you all over the next few years. Look for your additional input, and if you need any of us to come out to your communities and help you either organize or look at problems that you have, we're very accessible. If you want to come up to the office and talk, or just call the office at 256-427-5400, then we can discuss things there. But if you have specific needs that we can address, our funding is limited, but we try to come up with creative ways to address the problems of the community. So we just thank you again for coming out and participating.